Hello everybody and welcome to my new 100 Days of Modded Minecraft series. In this series I'll just kind of be playing around with a few mods that I like and have added. It's a bit of an assortment, it's kind of tech focused a lot of it, but some more just a bit of an assortment. So thank you for viewing and I hope you enjoy. I began day one by swiftly going to the bonus chest next to me. In the bonus chest, there was nothing too crazy except for a backpack, which is very, very useful. One of the most useful items in the game. It'll essentially double our inventory space, so I was very excited for that. And I also got a few basic tools that will help me along with my journey. Next, I stumbled across a cliffside with exposed stone that had some ore, which I was able to mine the coal, copper, and zinc from this mountainside. The rest of the ores I could not mine quite yet. Next, I stumbled across a village, which I was able to steal a bed from, get a little bit of loot, including potatoes, and I found a TARDIS. However, I could not get into the TARDIS as I needed a key, and after some research, I need 64 emeralds to get a key to get into the TARDIS, so it's definitely something to come back for. On day two, I did some exploring, and I found a second village. This village had a blacksmith with some stronger loot that definitely helped, but that was not the most valuable thing I would find in this village. Now, I'm not exactly sure what mod added this cat. Maybe a create mod, because it does look like a create copycat block, and that would make sense. But I knew I needed it now. And though my first two fish would not tame it, I knew I had to try to get fish somewhere else. So I traveled to the lake, got some fish, came back, and tried again. Somehow, 9 fish was not enough, but I was determined. So I repeated the process again, came back with plenty of fish this time, and was able to tame the cat. With my new cat alongside me, I went in search of a place to build a house when I saw something strange on the map. It ended up being this weird structure from, I believe, the Stellaris mod, and I explored it and was able to get a little bit of stuff from it, so it was definitely an interesting little find, so I definitely liked it. On day 6, I was able to find a little area that I liked and would like to build a house in. I also fell into a ravine and nearly died, but I managed to barely survive, so I was thankful for that. I also began to construct my house. I was planning on making it the sub-basement, the level below the basement of my house, though I would make a mistake later that made it to where that didn't quite work out, but that is why I started doing this thing with the blocks and trying to measure out how deep I was going. I managed to dig out a little hole in the ground, put my stuff in, get my cat in it, then I would proceed to dig it out further to create some space, and down here I just like to have a little living area as well as a potato farm. With the completion of my potato farm, my little area underground would be complete. So, next step would be to go to the mine to get iron. I wanted the iron for a schematic cannon so I could actually place it in the house I had designed in the creative world above my house to make that my main house to actually live in. My first big discovery in the mine would be a lava pit, which would definitely come in handy later as we'd have plenty of uses for lava. The mining trip was definitely a success. I was able to get some gold and iron, as well as some titanium, but I did manage to get lost, so I had to tunnel out and walk back home. I began day 9 by planting potatoes and then trying to craft the schematic cannon. However, I noticed that I actually had neglected to get any redstone on my trip to the mines last time, so I would have to go back to the mines to get redstone to make the dispenser for the schematic cannon. While looking for the redstone, I managed to find 3 diamonds to make a pickaxe, and with any luck, this pickaxe would last us the rest of the game if I take care of it, but for now, I need to be careful not to wear out its durability. Eventually, I was able to get the redstone I needed so I could get out of the mine. I also was able to get 2 gunpowder, which would be useful as it would fuel the schematic cannon. Never mind. I spent this night hunting for spiders because string for the bow for the dispenser would be the final ingredient I needed for the schematic cannon. I also tried to kill any creepers I saw so I could get gunpowder to fuel it. This would be the first night I died as well. On day 11, I was able to come in, and after struggling to remember how to craft a bow, I was able to actually craft the schematic cannon. Unfortunately, I lost a couple days of footage, but essentially what I did was open the world to multiplayer so Charlie could join. He will be joining us for the rest of our journey. And I also was able to start work on a cobblestone generator to essentially make cobblestone so I can make stone brick primarily to build the house. Using the create mod, I was able to power our cobblestone generator, and also using the gears, I was able to gear up the speed to help produce cobblestone even faster. With lava from the lava pit I'd mentioned earlier, I was able to get a bucket of lava and actually open up the cobblestone generator fully functioning. The next thing I needed would be birchwood and dark oak wood. This I would need to go on a long adventure to get, which would start a series of very unfortunate events in this world. My first mistake I made was breaking my bed to take it with me to sleep. On day 16, I was able to find both of the woods that I needed, conveniently right next to each other, actually. And with the wood gathered, it was now time to begin my journey back. I had died far out, and thanks to me breaking my bed, I lost my spawn point. So I respawned nearly 3,000 blocks away from where I died. So it was time to go get my stuff. While walking to my stuff, I saw a tornado in the distance, which from Charlie I knew was right over our house, but thankfully it wasn't really tearing up our house. The land, on the other hand, was a different story, but you'll see soon. I had managed to walk back to within 100 blocks of my stuff when I died again. So with that, I decided to go for a different strategy. I decided to try to return home to gear up to go out and get my stuff, but things wouldn't go quite so smoothly as I'd hoped. The first problem I ran into was that the land around my house was pretty much unrecognizable thanks to the tornado. Despite this, I managed to gear up, and I went outside to help Charlie mine a little meteorite that had fallen not too far from the house that we are now able to see because of the tornado damage, taking out all the other blocks around it. Then I experienced what might be the worst series of events I have ever experienced in my over a decade of playing this game. I'll just let this clip play out.
So yeah, the creeper blew up me, my house, including my chests, my bed. I lost my spawn point, went back to spawn, which was like 1,000-ish blocks away. So yeah, not very fun. I guess thankfully Charlie had managed to actually have a different bed he spawned in, so he did not get sent back to spawn with me, and my cat managed to narrowly survive the attack, so I was very thankful for that. I unfortunately lost a couple more days of footage here, but essentially I was just able to go to the house, get a couple stuff, run all the way out the several thousand blocks to get my initial body, to get all the stuff from that back. And I made it part of the way back, but I died again. At least my new body was closer to the house than my old body. So this time, I was finally able to go out, get the stuff from my body, make it home with all my stuff safely, and finally, after who knows how long, I was able to recover from the incident. With all my stuff back, I was able to finally just sit back, relax, and work on gathering materials for the schematic cannon. The next machine I would have to make would be a bulk blaster. This machine would use an encased fan to blow lava onto blocks to smelt them. I'd use this to smelt cobblestone from the cobblestone generator in order to make stone bricks, which my house needed a lot of. With the lava in place, I was ready to start smelting my cobblestone to create stone bricks for the house. Next, I would be heading into the caves to get diorite and deep slate for the house. On day 28, I was finally able to fire the schematic cannon after getting all the materials. It takes gunpowder and we don't have a lot, so I'm not really sure how far it'll go today, but I hope we get a good start. On day 29, I went to go check out the basement of my new house, but I noticed I'd made a very fatal error in misplacing the schematic. So the new basement was overriding the old house, which is very unfortunate as I wanted the old house to be underneath the new house, but because of this, I just kind of decided to go around digging out the area and merging the old house into the new house. It's kind of weird, but I'll show you what I mean. On day 31, I noticed that the schematic cannon had stopped working because it had run out of gunpowder, and I didn't really want to kill creepers because, as you guys have seen, it's not turned out too well for me so far. So I decided to work on making synthetic gunpowder. To do this, I would use mechanism crushers to turn flint into gunpowder. First, though, I needed to make a metallurgic infuser to actually make the components to even make the crusher. Using a combination of lava and coal in my heat generator, I was able to power the metallurgic infuser, and through that I was able to make the materials needed to craft the crusher. I used vein mine to vein mine some gravel to get flint to put in the crusher, and then I was able to power the crusher to start making the flint into gunpowder. With my new synthetic gunpowder, I was able to fire up the schematic cannon once again to finish the house. The schematic cannon takes a little bit of time to work, so I spent the next little bit working on digging the area out around the house to kind of terraform the area a bit. I took a break for a minute to look at the progress the schematic cannon was making on the house, and I was definitely very happy with what I saw. I continued day 36 by terraforming, but nature would have other plans. First it started to hail, so I hunkered down inside, but soon the house would be hit by a tornado. I left the basement to try to check on the damage the tornado done. This was a mistake. The tornado was very damaging to the house, and it would take me a while to fix the damage. I'd have to do it all manually since the schematic cannon wouldn't fix this for me. After this, I decided to alter the configs to where tornadoes don't do block damage anymore. In the meantime, Charlie had built a pathway up the mountain, which I proceeded to check out. I was very appreciative of this, and it makes getting up the mountain a lot easier. Just ignore any tornado damage you see around it. I then took some more time to repair the house from the tornado while the schematic cannon was building the final few stories in the tower portion of the house. On day 38, I decided to just sit back and relax and watch the schematic cannon finish off the last bit of the house. With the house completed, I decided to just end the day by looking at the house, all four sides, and viewing what had been created. I started day 39 by making a chest where I would store things to make a storage system. Creating a storage system would be the next big project I'd be focusing on for the next several days. A side project I'd be working on throughout all of this would be making a mine colony's colony. I started out by making a builder's wand to place the buildings for the colony. I placed the town hall block right by my house because I wanted my house to actually be an integral part of the colony. But before I could construct the town hall, I would have to construct a builder's hut, which I placed around the back. Using the builder's hut, I could provide a colonist with materials and he would build the building that I assigned him to work on. First, I'd have to build the hut before I could build any other buildings. So I would spend the next few days gathering material for the colonist.
I can't work like...
Someone please fix my housing situation. This is horrible.
Yeah, the colonists can talk. The next day I would spend splitting my time between getting materials for the colonists and tearing down the machines outdoors. I'd be clearing out this area to make more room for the colony, and later I'll rebuild the machines inside. I continue to gather materials for the colonists, and I managed to fulfill all of their requirements. Now I would just need to wait for them to finish the construction. I then began to terraform the area around. I also instructed the colonists to begin work on the town hall during this. After a lengthy mining trip, I went on an adventure to get villagers. I had the Easy Villagers mod, which means I could put villagers in blocks. I'd crafted the trader blocks, and now all I needed was the villagers. I placed the villagers and their trader blocks in this corner of the first floor of my house. From here, I could trade with them by accessing the block, and it would be very easy. But first, I would need to actually get a work block for the villagers to gain a profession. On day 49, I tried to press some iron into iron sheets, but I needed 3 stacks, and I quickly realized that manually doing this wouldn't work. I would need a workshop. I started to dig out a sub-basement. The sub-basement would be the area where I produce my power, and this power would be used for our workshop. With the area cleared out, I began to place several large water wheels that I'd use to power my workshop. I made an infinite water source in the corner of our house and then got water from that to power the water wheels. I made a quick setup to transfer power from the water wheels up to the floor above. This is where I'd be putting my workshop. The primary purpose of my workshop would be to craft create mod items, so I'd be putting in several machines to create these items. First, I got the press working, but it was very slow, so I would go back down into the sub-basement to make a gearing up system to increase the speed. The press now worked at a satisfactory speed, so it was time to work on creating more machines for the workshop. The next machine would be a mixing basin, which I'd place next to the mechanical press after taking some time to figure out how to actually set this thing up. Next up would be a setup for bulk blasting, cooking, haunting, and washing, although I'd have to wait to haunt because I didn't have a soul campfire just yet. I cleaned the area up a bit and then built a wall to section the workshop off into its own room. With the workshop done, it was now time to work on getting materials for the storage system. The first thing I would need is more iron, so I went back to the mines. I actually ended up getting a ton of diamonds while looking for iron, which I definitely can't complain about that. With all my iron, I then began to smelt it and process it into iron sheets. I had all I needed for the storage system. The huge quantity of iron required was the main obstacle, but there are still a few other things I need to get before I could finally make the storage system. All this iron would be used to craft item vaults. All in all, I needed 86 of them, 81 for the actual vault to put the items in, and 5 more to craft some more recipes that I needed. The only ingredient left to make the storage system I needed was 3 slime balls. Fortunately, Create adds a recipe where you can mix lime dye and dough, which is created using wheat, to make the slime balls. I already had the machines to turn the wheat into dough, and Charlie was making a wheat farm, so that was fine. The problem would be getting the green dye. I decided to go with the route of making a nature's compass and finding cactus to make the dye. The nature's compass was fortunately quite easy to make, but the answers it gave me as to the nearest desert were less than satisfying. It would be a very big adventure I would need to go on. During the first night, I was ambushed by a horde of very well-dressed zombies. I decided to fight them off. It was quite difficult, but I was glad I did because one of these zombies actually dropped some very good armor. It's better than what I had on, but the durability was rather low. The zombie did not drop a chest plate, so I made myself a diamond chest plate. I also tamed this cute little blonde cat. On day 59, I finally reached my destination and was able to gather some cactuses. I also gathered some of these special cactuses for decoration around the house. With cacti in hand, it was now time to begin the long journey back home. Once I got home, Charlie gave me some wheat from his new wheat farm, and I got to work on making the dough and slime balls. Thanks to the slime balls, I was able to create 3 packaged frog ports, a very key and vital ingredient for our storage system. The final obstacle to making the storage system would be making cardboard. It wouldn't be too hard to get this, I would just need several saplings. I was able to get some saplings from the nearby hazel forest, and with my saplings, I was able to produce the cardboard. Finally, it was time to begin constructing the storage system. I began by clearing out an area to place the item vault. This is where all the items would go to be stored. Next, I began to place down my packagers, chests, and frog ports to actually get the storage system working. Next, I connected the power to the storage system through the wall. I cleaned the area around the storage system up a little bit, and the final step to get the storage system to work would be to find a chicken to actually staff it. Thankfully, those chickens had dropped eggs, and we were able to get a chicken that way. With chicken in place, the storage system was now fully functional. The right chest was the input, then you could ask the chicken to give you your items back and it would go into the output chest on the left. Now it was time to empty all our stuff from the chests into the storage system. This took a little bit because we had a lot of chests with a lot of stuff. We took a break from this stuff for Charlie to make pancakes. First he had to make the batter. We could just craft it in the crafting table normally, but it also works in a Create Mod mixer. This was a lot more fun to watch. While Charlie worked on the pancakes, I decided to get the stuff to make a lectern to give to one of the villagers I'd gotten earlier. Charlie managed to finish the pancakes and even made a small dining area to eat them, so then I went to go eat the pancakes. I gave the lectern to one of the villagers, and thanks to the Easy Villagers mod, I was able to quickly cycle to get a mending book. I turned the second villager into a farmer so I could trade some of my excess crops to get emeralds to buy a mending book. Through this, I was able to get enough emeralds to get my first mending book, which I put on my pickaxe. My next plan would be to go to the Nether to get blazes to make blaze burners. We kept accidentally punching the chicken at the storage system, so I decided I'd try to get a blaze burner instead since we can't punch those. It would also be good to just have several blaze burners for other projects in the future. The only problem though was that I actually didn't have any obsidian, so I'd have to go on a mining trip to get the obsidian. I'd forgotten to bring a bucket, so I had to get a little bit creative when making the obsidian, but once I got it, I was able to mine it and get all the obsidian I needed very quickly. Over the course of my trip, I was able to get a few diamonds, so I was able to craft diamond armor finally. With the iron crushed for the blaze burners and the nether portal built, I was ready to go into the nether. It would not be a good time. Blaze burners are a very important part of later game create mods, so I knew I'd have to have a lot, and I didn't really want to have to go back to the fortress every time I needed more, so I concocted a plan to run into the fortress and grab the spawner using the carry on mod, and bring it back to somewhere closer to the portal to where I could have a safe area to extract blazes. The fortress would be a very difficult time for me. I spent the next while in an endless cycle of dying, trying to get my stuff, dying while trying to get my stuff, getting my stuff, dying again, but all the while, I was able to actually start making infrastructure to make it easier to get to the blaze spawner, so when I finally got it, I could just run out. After 9 deaths, I was finally able to get the blaze spawner and get out of there. Make that 10 deaths. I made a little area off to the side by the portal where I could just place the spawner and have it be its own area so blazes wouldn't invade when you get out of the portal. That way I could just easily click on the spawner and get blaze burners every time I needed it. I replaced the chicken with the blaze burner, and I also placed one underneath the mixing basin so that way we could do heated mixing like brass. I then took a quick trip back into the nether to get soul sand for a soul campfire. That way we could do bulk haunting in our setup that we already built earlier. Thankfully this nether trip went much smoother. I was looking at the JEI recipes for haunting and saw that you could haunt a peculiar bell into a haunted bell. I thought these names sounded funny, so I decided to make them, but first I need to make our first brass. Thankfully with the blaze burner we just got, we could make it quite easily. With our brass, I was able to make 2 bells, one of which I haunted and the other which I left normal. I decided to place the 2 bells on the top floor of our tower, making it like a little bell tower. Additionally, thanks to our new blaze rods, I was now able to craft a very special item which I would then quickly use. I don't really know why he just flew away instantly like that, but it was pretty cool. After messing with the cat, I decided it was time to solve the homeless crisis. I decided to build a tavern since that would give us 4 beds to start out with. Next, I decided to make a restaurant because I realized all of the people were starving. In the meantime, I manually fed the people until their restaurant was built.
If you say so. So, what will it be for you?
With the restaurant finished, I went in to give all the colonists potatoes so they wouldn't starve.
Right away.
Good to see you.
I decided it was time to start working on the interior of the house, so I started by sectioning off some rooms around the villagers and then in some other areas as well. I split the first floor of the house into 2 areas, one entryway area and a back area for an enchanting table and other enchantment supplies, as well as a library. There also was a small room in between these 2 areas where I'd place a sugarcane farm, but to set it up, I'd have to work on the ceiling of the basement to be able to fit the water in for the sugarcane. I finished the sugarcane farm. It wasn't very big, but all we needed really was a few books for enchanting, so we wouldn't need too much. Getting leather would generally be the harder part of getting the books. The next morning, I made myself a pair of engineering goggles. This would allow me to see rotational power use. I wasn't really sure how much I was using, so I definitely wanted to see how much I was using to see how much more we had. It looked like things were going well, and we had plenty of power to spare. I made an enchantment table and a few bookshelves for a quick enchantment table setup, which I placed and then immediately broke because Charlie reminded me that this was modded Minecraft and we had special bookshelves. We decided to go with rainbow eucalyptus, which we got a sapling from a wandering trader to get. We didn't have many books to work with, but I definitely liked what we had with our new rainbow eucalyptus bookshelves. My next project would be to make a mechanical crafter. The first step to do this would be to get rose quartz and polish it using sandpaper. Next, I made some brass casings. And I was able to craft the 21 mechanical crafters needed for a full setup. I made a little area over here to place my mechanical crafter, and I cleaned the area up a little bit as well. The next step would be to power the mechanical crafter, which shouldn't be too hard as I could just draw the power from the storage system nearby. Oh no. Unfortunately, we had ran out of rotational power. The solution I decided to use to this problem would be to create a windmill on our bell tower. We had a floor underneath the bells. This is where I'd place it, and I started by placing a scaffolding around the tower. I placed my windmill bearings to get my bearings on where the windmill would go. The setup I used to connect the four sides of the windmill was kind of ugly, and I had to resort to desperate measures to actually get around this room. Thankfully, this room was out of the way and wouldn't really need to be used. I needed a lot of wool for the windmill cells, and I really only had the option of just running around with shears and shearing a full stack of wool off of just random sheep in the woods. With my stack of wool, I was able to craft 2 stacks of windmill sails, which I quickly got to placing. It was a really tedious process to place, and I'm glad I checked the first side to see if it works, because it didn't, and I realized I'd actually placed it a little bit wrong. So after breaking and replacing the entire front side on the side of a block, I was actually able to get this side working. Now the only thing left to do would be to repeat the process on the 3 other sides. I took a look at the finished windmill and was very happy with what I saw. The only thing left to do now would be to connect it up to the rest of the power system. It wasn't exactly easy to do or good looking, but I was hoping as I built rooms in the house, I'd be able to find ways to make it look better. I decided to hook it up in through the far end of the wheels so that way it could spin through everything along with the wheels. I checked the stressometer and everything was looking good, so I hooked up our mechanical crafter back into the system, and this time everything worked just fine. I then crafted a wrench to be able to position the mechanical crafters in the right direction. My next goal would be to create an enchantment printer to make mending books easily so I wouldn't have to keep buying them from the villager. I started out by making some copper sheets, as well as some pipes and a pump to carry the liquid experience around. I made a setup with a fluid tank, a pump, and some pipes to get the experience into the tank and out. The only problem was that I realized they'd actually updated the mod, and that's not how you got experience into the tank anymore. It turns out I needed a fluid hatch with a block of experience placed on it. To get the block of experience, I need 9 experience chunks. To get these experience nuggets, I need to crush things in a crushing wheel. The crushing wheel had a bit of a complicated recipe, but thankfully I just made the mechanical crafter needed to actually craft it, so it wouldn't be too bad. I carefully placed all the materials into the mechanical crafter, which failed the first time because I had set it up wrong. But I fixed it and tried again, and this time it crafted the crushing wheels in a very satisfying manner. I set the crushing wheels up in the workshop, and it honestly took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to actually get this hooked up right. But once I got it, I was ready to start crushing ores to get experience nuggets. I was very swiftly able to get enough experience nuggets to make a block of experience and place it in a fluid hatch to get experience into our experience tank. Next, I made the printer, and I was able to create a nice little printer setup. Before I printed mending books, I decided to enchant my armor in the enchantment table. It wasn't exactly the best enchantments, but it'll do. Now, it was time to print some mending books. This was a lot of fun to watch, and I liked watching the printer do its work. I made a quick trip to kill some cows to make more books to make even more mending books at the printer. With that, I was able to put mending on to all of my armor, making it to where it wouldn't break. I decided it was time to start trying to clean up the sub-basement a little bit. I wanted to make it an industrial area, so I gave it a cobblestone ceiling and I wanted to give it a smooth stone floor. I'd be distracted by something pretty soon though, so I wouldn't exactly get far with this. Digging into this lava reminded me of something. It reminded me of with the Create mod, if you get 10,000 blocks of lava in a lava pit, you can get an infinite lava supply. So, it was time to get an infinite lava supply. I decided to go with digging a giant hole. I'd make it 12 by 12 and very deep. I would work on digging this hole for several days. It would take much longer than I thought, even with FTB Bane Miner. Eventually, I did manage to dig out the hole after several days, and now the problem would be finding a way to get lava into that hole. I set up a hose pulley over the pit being pumped by a water wheel. I then tested the system out using a mechanism fluid tank. It worked. Now I just need to get the lava into the fluid tank. I started out by getting the lava from the nearby lava pit into the fluid tank and then dumping it into the pump. This solution wouldn't work for long, though. I'd quickly run out of lava in the lava pit, and I need to look somewhere else where there is more lava. The Nether. In the Nether, I ran a very, very long hose pulley from the portal all the way down to the lava ocean at the bottom of the world, and I created a reverse setup of what I had in the overworld that would pump lava out of the ocean into a tank. Now, all I had to do was fill the buckets up, run back and forth about 100 times, and then dump them out. I made this trip a couple times, but I very quickly realized it was not worth my time. So, since this is modded Minecraft, I came up with a very modded solution. I downloaded a mod called Ender Tanks that did basically exactly what I needed. It would teleport lava in between dimensions. I made a trip to the Nether to get the blaze rods needed for the Ender Tanks. While I was fighting the blazes, I actually got 2 Wither Skulls, and I had previously gotten a third while I was in the Nether earlier. This gave me a terrible idea for how to spend day 100. That night, I was able to get an Ender Pearl, the final ingredient I needed to craft the Ender Tanks. I was quickly able to get the tank set up and start teleporting lava from the Nether into the overworld and into my pit. Now I would just need to wait a long time for the pit to fill up. And with that, it was day 100. I decided to try to finish the video off by fighting the Wither. I was completely unprepared. I've never actually beat the Wither in hard mode, and this was a terrible idea. A tornado spawned. It was probably trying to tell me to stop. After the tornado had gone, it was time to spawn the Wither. Hopefully, this fight would go well. We realized we were grossly underprepared, and there was no hope of beating this Wither by the end of day 100, so we made the decision to just lead it away and keep it far away from the house so it would not damage anything. And with that, that's how my 100 days of modded Minecraft went. I definitely had a lot of fun, but I feel like I've barely scratched the surface, so I'll definitely make a part 2, so you'll have to check in to find out how do we get the lava pit to fill up, how do we deal with the Wither that's roaming around our world. I don't know. You'll just have to see next time. Thank everyone for watching, and have a good day.